Please join me in welcoming back Nat Turner.
Thank you all very much. Thank you so much. This has been a passion project of mine for the last 7 years. And I've poured everything that I am into making it, and I've had wonderful support. So I want to get right into it and welcome up the family that helped me bring this to fruition. I'm going to start with the cast. May I have Asian O.M. King, Armie Hammer, Anjanu Ellis, Chike Okonkwo, Chris Green, Coleman Domingo, Dominic Bogart, Dwight Henry, Miss Esther Scott, Gabrielle Union, Jackie Earl Haley, Jason Stewart, Jason Warner Smith, Gerald Prescott, Katie Garfield, Mark Boone Jr., Penelope Ann Miller, Roger Guinevere Smith, Ryan Mulcahy, Tony Espinoza. You're probably thinking, they brought everybody. And we did. It was very important for us to have our family here, to have everyone experience this. Everyone you look at, they're big stars. Everyone worked for scale, stayed late sometimes, came early. It takes a village, especially to do something that has impact. And so we wanted to be intentional about sharing this moment with all the actors. And there are more people coming up. Producers, Kevin Turn, can you come up? Jason Michael Berman, Aaron Gilbert, Preston Holmes, please make your way. Our executive producers, David Goyer, I'm not sure if he's here, Michael Novogratz, Michael Finley, Jason Cloth, Andy Pollock, Alan Stitt, Jane Oster, Barb Lee, Carl Linder, Derek Brooks, Jill and Ryan Arns, Armin Tierney, Mark Moran, please all come up. Co-producers Zach Tangeloff, Matt Linder, Harrison Grace, E.K. Waldhouse, Benjamin Renzo. Also, production designer, Jeffrey Kirkland, if you're here. Director of photography, Elliot Davis. Visual effects supervisor, George A. Lucas. Am I missing anyone? I didn't type this.
Okay, this may be the biggest village we've ever had on this stage. So, hey, all you guys, I'm going to ask everybody if you don't mind moving downstage into the light so that all these folks out here can see you all. We're going to open this up to a Q&A. If any of you have any questions for Nate or anyone else on here, raise your hand. please try to speak as loudly as possible because it's a big room. I'll repeat the question if necessary, and we will give it a go. Anybody? And it's kind of hard to see, so make sure you...
Oh, I love you back. Thank you for being here.
All right. The lady in the red coat.
Well, first, thank you.
Nate, could you repeat that?
She said, this film carries a lot of responsibility. How can we help you carry it? I mean, there's the obvious, talk to people, however you felt. I made this film for one reason, with hope of creating change agents, that people can watch this film and be affected. That you can watch this film and see that there are systems that were in place that were corrupt and corrupted people. And the legacy of that still lives with us. There are systems in our life right now, in your environment right now. Are you passive? Or are you corrupt and complicit? Because there's no middle ground, right? There is no middle ground. So I just want you, if you are affected and if you are so moved, to ask yourself, are there systems in my life that need attention? Whether it be racial, whether it be gender, sexual, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of injustices. What I took from this is that Nat Turner had a riotous disposition toward injustice. That developed in him. He used the tools he had. He didn't have Twitter or Facebook. If he did, it might have been a different rebellion. So, of course, talk to people about it if you were so moved. But also ask yourself those questions. Hopefully all of us can leave and feel a little different and be more intentional about how we address those things, those injustices, whether small or large, as they arise in our life.
Okay, anyone else? Sure, the gentleman standing up. Okay, anyone else? Sure, this lady down here.
And please repeat, we can't hear.
Yeah, okay.
Of course, we'll do that.
Lady, please.
Nate, can you just talk about what went into getting this film made, and then also if maybe Army and Penelope can talk about their characters because of the racial aspects of the film and what they went through to play those characters as well?
Okay, the question was first for Nate, how he got this film made, and then the second part of it was for Army and Penelope being the main white characters in this film. What was it like to play those characters? So
I'll try to be brief. It was very difficult, extremely difficult, for so many reasons. I think the first was the subject matter. Anytime we're dealing with our history, specifically with slavery, we find it, well, I've found that it's been desperately sanitized. So there's a resistance, I'll say, to dealing with this material. So when the script goes out and people read it, they say, well, people won't want to see this. It's another slave movie, and haven't we seen those? And then dealing with resistance, trying to let them know this is a different kind of film, right? And then you get the thing that says, well, people overseas, they don't really want to see people of color. And I think that's self-perpetuating, and I think that it's easy to say that, but it all speaks back to, the original G.W. Griffith, the original Birth of a Nation, and it was the foundation of our industry. That was it, the first. We're built on sand in this industry, we just are. And if we don't give it attention, we're going to have these issues, these racist, this infrastructure that we have to deal with for generation to generation. So that's basically, I have to deal with all the no's, all the doubts, all the rules that we are supposedly to abide by. But George Lucas, as I said, and Black House, George Lucas was doing Red Tails, he said, when everyone's telling you something can't be done, that's how you know you're on the right track. So, you guys have probably heard the story. I left acting, talked to my agent, said I'm not acting anymore until this happens, and I put myself on the line, and I put my own money in, and I sacrificed what I believe to be everything. And even still, it could never measure to what Nat Turner gave. So when you ask what I did, I just put my life on the line. I tried to make it so there wasn't an option, it had to be done. And then people stepped up, the producers on the stage, financiers on the stage. I traveled everywhere and just pitched my position, my desire to create a healing mechanism for America. And they bought in and they supported me. And a couple of them said, this is not a smart business investment. Odds, considering the odds, I should not be doing this. But I believe in you and I will support you. And there were just enough of those to get this done. Army.
7 years though, right? 7 years?
7 years.
7 years. So just to answer the question about my character, being a woman in those days and teaching a young African-American slave to read was not only unheard of, but it was illegal. And so this was a pretty, to me, courageous woman to take this young boy under her wing, and she believed he had a gift, and she believed that this was something that she needed to do for whatever her motivations. She felt it was a blessing, and he really became sort of like a surrogate son to her, and here she was sort of juxtaposed between these two boys ultimately. And it was really a very challenging, but very beautiful character to me, especially a woman to be that brave and in that time period. I just have to say, I feel so incredibly honored and proud to be up here today in Sundance, and that you picked this film. It's been working with Nate Parker, and we've seen him act, but he's an incredible filmmaker, and he guided us and had an incredible vision, and he chose all of us to be here for very specific reasons, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be part of this, and I'll hand it over to Army. Thank you.
As far as, I'm sorry, just trying to hide. Was the question what it was like to play this character, or about the character itself? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How difficult was it knowing what this character did and what this character stood for, and even though they tried to make him this semi-sympathetic person, he was still, he's a slave owner, and still, went along with the rapes and the murders and everything.
Sure. It sucked. It was not good. It was not fun. There were definitely days where Nate had to kind of stop everything we were doing and remind us why we were all here, because everybody sort of felt the emotional burden of it. It was heavy subject matter, as you guys all can now witness to. But at the same time, it was a story that needed to be told. We were there for a reason, and as Penelope said, we were, each of us, I think, incredibly honored to be a part of this. It's such an amazing story that needs to be sort of spread and out there, even more so than it already is. But you see, for the character of Samuel, you see a man who is corrupted by the system. This is a flawed system. The economic, socioeconomic system that they had there was slavery involved. It was flawed, and it corrupted everybody it touched. There wasn't anybody who went to sleep at night with a clean conscience or feeling good about themselves. It got everybody, and you see it happen to all these characters too. Some of them start worse off than others, whereas mine, started playing with Nat. They were friends. They didn't know the difference. They didn't understand that there was a difference between two of them just because they looked different. And then you see the system corrupt both of them, and how it affects Nat and also how it affects Samuel.
You just want to add one quick thing. Usually when we see films about slavery or any literature that is not real literature about slavery, it paints the oppressor as a sociopath. That all they want to do is beat and torture, so people can check out. I'm not like that. That's not like me. Those bad. The reality is that these were people that, in their benevolence, thought that they were doing good even though they were doing bad. So, and I think in 2016, that is something that echoes. So when you think about, right, so even in the writing and the direction, Gene, where's Gene? Gene, what are you doing? Come here. So this is my college roommate, and he was the very first person I told that I went to tell this story. So he helped me with my research. We wrote the treatment together. So we wanted, you know, even in just the research and the treatment, we wanted to be intentional about painting a human palette. Because when you see these films and you see the guy just lusting and then he just wants to be black for being black, that's not what it was. You know, it's important to recognize that this system was a system that was supported by the Constitution. It was supported by the scientists of the day who said our brains were smaller, right? There were so many people complicit, not just hillbillies, but people of academia, right? So I think that we have to look at slavery in the layered system that it was, because then it'll be a lot easier to accept the fact that it can be, or the remnants or the legacy of it can be affecting us now.
And there's a question for this lady right here.
Annie.
That's so important, so beautiful and thankful. My question is, you really made people confront, which most people in America haven't and refuse to confront, the reality of the torture and the torment that was slavery and how that carries forward today. And how important was it to you to lay bare the living, brutal torture and torment, both physically but also in your very soul in terms of heart and family.
Did you all hear that? Because she did speak loudly, I gotta give it to her, but if you are in the balcony and you did hear, it was a beautifully impassioned compliment for the film, but her question was that Nate laid bare the brutality of slavery, and how did it feel and what was it like for him to do that?
Yeah, and she basically said that, you know, that's something we haven't confronted. And that's a really quick answer. You know, I talk to my mentor Brian over there a lot, and we always say, without honest confrontation, there is no healing. You've been through trauma, you've been traumatized, there's no amount of berating someone or pointing your finger or shouting or willing them into healing. You have to confront that injury. And obviously slavery was an injury that was inflicted upon people of color in our country. And the more we ignore it, the more those wounds will seep, and then our children will be dealing with it, and their children will be dealing with it, and their children will be dealing with it, and their children will be.
Okay, sadly we only have time for one more question.
Can we do like two more and like have some casts or something?
Sadly, we only have time for two more questions. And one of them will be this lady with the hat.
Can we try to, if we can, to make them either cast-oriented or producer-oriented? I mean, the talent and genius on the stage, I just want to make sure someone else gets a chance to speak because they did so much. Right. Yeah, and I just say, yeah, basically, she's right. You know, she's basically saying that we need the Bible's been used for great atrocities, and it's true. You know, and I'll basically say it's like a hammer. If I have a hammer and I beat people with it, right? No amount of me beating people with it will make it a weapon any more than a hammer, if that makes sense. Still a hammer, but it's being used for the wrong thing, and that's what we saw in the film. So I think it's like, you gotta ask yourself, if there are any Christians, I'm a Christian, I'm a man of faith, if there are any Christians in the audience, you have to ask yourself, am I a Nat Turner Christian? Or I'm a Christian like the people that skid Nat Turner? Because you gotta choose, you either one or the other, right? So it's a question of our faith. We have to really claim it and ask ourselves, where do we stand with our faith? Okay. Ooh.
Her question was about the production design and the costume design and the whole look of the movie, and if the people who made that happen would address that.
I happen to be standing next to the production designer. I'm the cinematographer. It was a grueling process, but grueling in a good way. Nate was totally prepared. When you live with something for 7 years, you see it for 7 years, and I think the role was more like, what is the subtext of everything? It's not about a surface thing. The whole idea was to get below the surface, and this is something Nate and I, we didn't have that long prep, and we were just very intense. I think we stared at pictures. We were like goats, you know, staring at grass. But we had walls of pictures, and we talked about it, and we just analyzed images for weeks. And but all these images were based, their subtexts were based on an emotional reality. And we kept digging and digging until we got to that what we call the emotional gold, you know, like this photo, this composition, this color makes us feel this way, which is the way that, from our director, is the way that we wanted the film to feel and the story to feel. So I think that's really the bottom line there. It's all about the study, you know. The whole thing was a study for us. It was an exploration. Still going on. You know, I look at it now and say, oh God, I wish we did this or that. But it's never ending. As Nate says, it will go on from this movie. It will continue for on and on and on. And hopefully other people will pick up the ball.
Well, I got the script, Birth of a Nation, loved it, arranged a meeting with the director. I go along, there's Nate. So I said, I see you wrote the script too. I said, yeah. Producing it too, huh? So I said, who plays the lead? He says, I do. And I go, no way. And sure enough, come the first day, he proved that he could do it all. Big time.
Okay, I can't think of a better way to end this. Let's give it up for Nate Parker and all these very talented people up here. And if everybody on
Join hands,
stage,
guys, we're gonna bow.
stay on stage. We're gonna take a big group picture here.